Hey guys, Dr. Stephanie here, and today we're talking about the hip flexors. So what are the hip flexors? They're these muscles that are right in the front of your hip. They actually come from your spine and come down across the front of your hip, and their function is to bring your knee up, bring your leg up towards your chest or towards the ceiling. And those muscles tend to be tight and tend to be weak in most people. And that's because we do a lot of sitting. So when we're sitting, I know I'm not sitting all the way, but when you're sitting in a chair, those muscles are shortened. And if you sit like that for a long period of time, then they stay in that shortened position, leaving them to be tight. But if you just work on stretching, that doesn't really help a whole lot, because the other thing that's happening when they're in that shortened position is that they get weak. They're not strong because we're not using them. And the other thing is, when we do a lot of walking, we're doing a lot of forward movement. And so we're not necessarily strengthening our hip flexors, but we're not letting them move through their whole range of motion. And so we're never really stretching those out enough. We're never strengthening those enough. And so it's really important to work on the strength and mobility in your hip flexors. So today I'm going to go over some of my favorite hip flexor strengthening exercises. These are things you can add to your daily, weekly routine, and it'll really help your hip flexors feel a whole lot better. Because a lot of people have pain or tightness here, and it really affects their daily living, their activities, their athletic or recreational activities, and it's basically no fun. So you don't want that pain in the front of your hips. The other thing that can happen is that if you have tight or weak hip flexors, that could actually lead to back pain. So sometimes you have back pain and don't realize that that's coming from your hip flexors. So if you work on strengthening those, that can actually help your hips and your back, and even down the chain, down at your knees and ankles. So let's go over some of my favorite exercises. These are easy ones you can do at home or at the gym or really wherever you want to. We're gonna start with a kettlebell. And so kettlebell just like this. If you don't have one, you can purchase one on Amazon. They're pretty easy to find. But basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna stick our foot through the kettlebell, the top of it. And I'm not wearing shoes. I don't wear shoes for a lot of my strength activities just because it's easier to feel the ground. But for this one, it may be uncomfortable on the top of your foot, so go ahead and put some shoes on if you want to. But what we're gonna do here is lift this kettlebell just up off the ground as high as you can, and then back down. So lift up and back down. And it doesn't have to be lifted up very high, but if you can't lift it at all, try going down in weight. If it feels too easy, you can try going up in weight. So just try doing 2 to 3 sets of 10, and you can alternate legs too. So with the next leg, just put your foot in there and just lift your knee up towards the ceiling. Whoa. Don't do that, but so nice and slow and controlled if you can, up and then down slowly. So if you feel like it's hard to do it slow and controlled, you may just be using a little too much weight, so go down and weight. So that's the first one. Then we're gonna go ahead and grab a loop resistance band like this, place it around your feet, and leave a little resistance in it, so feet about shoulder width apart. You want to stand up straight. And for the last one we did and this one, if you need to hold on to something or use a wall for balance, go ahead and do that. So what you want to do, just bring your knee up and back down. Bring the other knee up and back down. And you don't want to really like rock back and forth like this. You want to do it again slow and controlled. Really bring that knee up as high as you can, pulling that band, slowly back down. Then the other leg and slowly back down. Again, 2 to 3 sets of 10, up and slowly back down. All right, we're gonna go on the floor for the next ones. For the next one, grab your kettlebell, or you can grab a water bottle. Really for this one, just an object. You're going to sit with your legs out straight, sit up tall if you can. You can keep your hands here. For a little more challenge, keep your hands out here. If you're just starting out, you can place your hands on the floor. But what you want to do is keep this leg straight that's next to the kettlebell, lift it up and over, and then back up and over. You don't want to lean back too much because then you're not using your hip flexors. So lift up and over. Again, for more of a challenge, you can put your arms here, up and over, up and over. Again, 2 to 3 sets of 10, and then you can switch the kettlebell to the other side, and same thing, up and over, and back. Up and over, and back. Okay, now let's go ahead and lie on our back. And for this next one, we're going to cross one foot over the opposite knee, and then you're just gonna lift the other foot off the ground as high as you can, and then bring it back down nice and slow. So lift up, and back down, lift up, and back down. A little bit like a reverse crunch. So you wanna do 2 to 3 sets of 10, switch legs, and then lift up, and back down, lift up, and back down. 2 to 3 sets of 10. Okay, for the next one, we're gonna do 2 variations, one without a band, one with a band. So legs up in the air like this, and we're gonna do kind of a modified dead bug. So here you're gonna tap one heel to the ground, and back up, tap the other one down, and back up. Make sure you're breathing as you do these exercises. And you want to keep your core tight and braced as you do this. 2 to 3 sets of 10 again. And then to make that a little more challenging, we're going to grab our loop band, place it around your feet, and bend your knees again. So for this one, now we're going to straighten one leg out and then back. So keeping this knee in place, straighten the other leg, and alternating back and forth, nice and slow. Again, 2 to 3 sets of 10, just like that. All right, we got one more exercise. This one is a little challenging. We're gonna grab our kettlebell, and I'll show you how you can do this with and without the kettlebell, but we're gonna come into kind of a half kneeling position, one knee on the ground, one foot on the ground. And what we're gonna do is lift this foot up and over that kettlebell. Lift up and over. So this is a little more challenging. And if you wanna start with the kettlebell lying down, you can do that, so you don't have to lift quite as high. Just lift up and over, lift up and over. And if you feel like you can't lift it over that yet, you can just go ahead and do it. Pretend there's an object there. Lift up and over, lift up and over. You want to do 2 to 3 sets of 10, and then you'll do the same thing on the other side. Up and over, and up and over. If you need to hold on to something for this one, you can do that as well. Okay, so all of those exercises will help strengthen those hip flexors, will work on that mobility, and hopefully make your hips and low back feel a whole lot better.